Now we're ready to start with proportions. A proportion is simply two ratios that are equal. And the first thing that you need to be able to do is tell if a proportion is equal, or if the two ratios form a proportion. And we've got $3 for 12 eggs, or $4.50 for 18 eggs. Is that a proportion? Some of you might be able to look at that and say, yes, those are equal. But I'm not sure everyone can do that. And if you're in the store and you want to make a quick evaluation of it, all you do is take the cross products. You multiply 3 times 18, that gives you 54. And you take 12 times 450, that's also 54. Once you see that the two numbers are equal, then you can say, yes, this forms a proportion, and then you are able to put an equal sign there. But only if the cross products are equal. I've got another example here. If you have 24 trees in 2 acres, is that the same as having 48 trees in 4 acres? You can go ahead and take the cross products if you want, but another way to do a problem like this, you should be able to see that if you multiply these numbers by 2, you're going to get the same ratio. 24 times 2 is 48, 2 times 2 is 4, so that does form a proportion. Can't put an equal sign there, we don't know if it's equal. This one might be a little more difficult to tell. Is there something you can multiply these by that give you these? Well, you might have trouble figuring 6 times what is 15. You can't do that. Well, take your cross products. 6 times 45 gives you 270. 18 times 15, don't assume it's 270, multiply it out, but that does give you 270. And because the cross products are equal, you can then replace the arrows that I had there with an equal sign. So that is a true proportion. You may be given some examples that don't give you a proportion. Well, what if we don't have all the numbers we need? Let's say we have a proportion 32 over 4 equals r over 11. Well, I certainly don't know what I can multiply 4 by to get 11, but I can take the cross products. I get 4 times r equals, and that gives me 32 times 11. Now, before you grab your calculators, I want you to see what I'm going to do here. In order to solve this, whatever 32 times 11 is, I'm going to have to divide both sides by 4. So if I divide by 4, I do know that 4 goes into 32 8 times, and those divide out. So I end up with r equals, and on this side I have 8 times 11. You don't always have to grab your calculator. Sometimes your brain can do it faster. Let's look at another one. Don't go crazy when you see a fraction under a number or fraction inside a fraction. That's okay. You can work with that. You really can, because we're taking cross products anyway. So I'm going to do 8 times x equals 9 times 2/3. We know 3 goes into 9 3 times. So I now have 8x equals 3 times 2, which is 6. Well, I'm going to divide both sides by 8. I did fit it in there. You end up with x equals 6 over 8. Fractions should always be reduced, unless for some reason you need it left like that. But in this case we don't, so we can simplify that. It becomes 3/4 by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2. So that's all you have to do to solve a proportion. Let's look at another one. You might look at this and say, oh, I know I can change 3.5 to a decimal. That's 3.5. Then I don't have to worry about the fractions. What are you going to do with 1/3? For one thing, you're not going to come up with an exact answer if you change it to 0.33. No matter how many 3's you have, it's still an estimate or an approximation. You can work with these as fractions, and I'm going to show you it's not that difficult. First thing I'm going to do is change the mixed numbers to improper fractions, because you can't multiply with mixed numbers. You need to change them to improper fractions. 3.5, 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1, that's 7 over 2. Here, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1, that gives you 7 over 3. Now when I take the cross products, here I'm going to get 7n, and here, don't worry about it, you're going to end up with 7 over 2 times 7 over 3. That gives you 7n equals, and if you multiply that out, you get 49 over 6. you can work with that. You're going to divide by 7. That gives me n. Don't show this as dividing by 7, for instance, like that. That's going to get confusing and you're not going to know what to do. Dividing by 7 is the same as multiplying by 1/7. And when I do that, I know that 7 goes into 49 7 times. I now have 7/6. And you can leave it as an improper fraction. That's an acceptable answer. So again, you can work with fractions, especially because we're multiplying here. You don't need a common denominator when you multiply.